Awesome, a very good afternoon. Welcome to the world of rituals. Today I'm going to talk to you a bit about our company, the company I work for, how we use technology in our stores and the offices as well. And I'm going to close off with a bit of techie at the final bit, where I'm going to talk about how Power Automate specifically, together with Jamf Pro, makes our lives relatively easy. But I'm going to start with the beginning. So I'm Jeff. I work at Rituals now for about a year and a half. Before that, you may know me from such companies as Jamf, where I worked about 8.5 years as a professional services engineer. And then a year and a half ago, I made the switch to a different world, a world where they are a cosmetics company. But it's not just a cosmetics company, because Rituals is not here to sell you cosmetics, it's here to make you feel good. And feel good, that's literally one of the things that we do even within our IT organizations. We make sure that our employees are confident and feel great with the technology that we provide for them. As a company, we have a lot of stores, and I do mean a lot of stores. We have about 1,400 company-owned stores at present, and as the title from this presentation might allude to, we open a lot of locations. This year we open about, give or take, 300, 350 new locations. This is not necessarily in the UK and Ireland, this is worldwide, so that equals to about 8 every week. Now, I don't go to each of these openings myself, that would not be possible, because as you can see here on the slide, there is about, the furthest distance between two locations is about 7,500 kilometers, and that would not be very B Corp if I would travel all of those and cut ribbons and hand out iPads. So we have different firms that we work with, and I'm going to tell you during this presentation a bit how we do that. But before we do that, Apple's marketing team, they visited us last year, and if Apple does something really, really well, that is to make amazing videos. They did a case study of Rituals. It takes about 2 minutes, so I'm going to take 2 minutes of your time here and I'm going to show it to you, because they do it better than I do.
Rituals is a well-being company. We are a premium beauty brand with over 1,000 company-owned stores. We're really in a hyper-growth stage, consistently expanding across Europe and also Asia now, and having a lot of fun. When you believe that tech should be an enabler that provides simple solutions, great interface, and that is very accessible and easy to use, then I think Apple is the answer.
Throughout the whole store, the Apple devices are really important. We use iPhone as a multi-purpose solution.
Our store associates use their iPhones really to empower their working day. Every process they need to do, they can do it using the Eva app. So it's a CRM system, but also a logistic task app, all in one. And with a tap to pay, we can convert any iPhone into a payment terminal.
Enabling our employees with a better experience. They also have more time to focus on our customers and on our products.
At Rituals, we use iPad not only for point of sale itself, but also the customer-facing display.
Everything that happens from an omni-channel point of view happens through Apple devices.
We use Apple products across our entire business. Not only stores and headquarters, but also across all the different departments.
It's HR, marketing, it's store design, it's finance. As an IT department, we can empower everybody.
I think it's important to give everyone the same devices. We have a really strong connection with each other because we are all equal, and that's also something that's related to our culture.
When I started at Ritual, I was given a Mac and an iPhone, and obviously I was amazingly surprised, because it's not something that you usually get in finance. And most of the time we are using Excel, very easy to use. Feels really good.
When we moved to Mac, we saw a very fast decline in the amount of IT incidents. The company tripled in size. The service desk didn't.
We have a saying at Rituals where we say the employee's experience is the customer experience. We value our employees, giving them the best-in-class tools.
Apple devices makes my life easier. It really gives you a special experience, and that's what we want to give our customers.
I could not have said that better myself. And I'm so happy of that, the Apple media team to visit us and give us such a great material to show the world of what we do. How big are we? Well, we are reasonably sized. If we talk about numbers, there's some key metrics on the screen that I'm particularly proud of. We have about 3,000 MacBooks. These are primarily used by our office staff. We don't really use MacBooks in our stores as is. Also noteworthy is we have about 3 Windows devices, and those are devices that unfortunately I cannot get rid of. I'm trying, but you know, at some point these belong to people way more above my pay grade, so yeah, I kind of have to deal with it. Another noteworthy here thing is the POS devices that you see on the screen. These are Windows devices that we primarily use inside China. All the rest of the world is standardized on Apple. China is not. All right, let's have a look at how we do IT in our offices. So in our office, we equip people with a MacBook. They get an iPhone. We do that through mostly zero-touch deployment, even though IT at this point in time still provisions the laptop for users, but we treat that primarily as a service. It's not a technical necessity, because for remote workers, we do ship them the laptop straight from the box and tell them good luck, and there's very little in terms of incidents that we get back. So in that sense, zero touch really works for us. We use Jamf Connect to allow an employee to sign in with their Entra ID account and get immediately set up with all of our systems, make sure that they set up 2-factor authentication if need be. And on top of that, we use a security stack from Microsoft Defender, Cisco Umbrella. All right, so this is generally how we do zero touch in our offices. We use various tools for that. So we use primarily SetupManager to tell the user what's going on. We tell them, hey, which applications are going to be installed. We tell them roughly how long that's going to take. After SetupManager is finished, they are presented with a Jamf Connect window in which they can sign in, followed by Set Up Your Mac, because even in the user space, there are some things specific to us that we like to do. And yeah, we do like to tell people, well, your laptop is not entirely ready to be used yet. Just wait a few moments and then you're good to go. The Set Up Your Mac window normally should not take longer than a minute, but it's always good to tell people, hey, this is going on. This is what happens inside of your laptop while it's being set up. Now, I also briefly alluded to the security stack. So we use a managed SOC. So the managed SOC takes care of all of our security alerting, and they tell us really about all the stuff that we need to know. But they also keep count on the number of incidents that we get, either based off of the endpoints. We can get them out of identity. We can get them out of various different places. They monitor everything for us, and they make sure that we are safe and secure. In terms of slides, I know this is a little bit small. That's on purpose, because they would not allow me to show all the other incidents, but I can talk about the endpoints. And we have, this data is from the sample set of April, and we had a grand total of 2 incidents on all of our endpoints, which is astonishing. So that I'm really happy with that, to make sure that it actually works as designed. And the number of incidents are so low, in fact, that we intentionally try to break it just to make sure that the alerting works. I mean, how good is it if we don't know that it's broken? Now, there are some improvements that we're going to work towards in the near future for the office improvements. So we will ship more as we can directly from the warehouse to the employee, leveraging that power of zero-touch provisioning, letting IT do other things instead of provisioning laptops. But again, we're not there yet. So the organization still likes to have that service element in there. Again, not a technical requirement, but it's just something that's very nice to have. We are anxiously awaiting Microsoft's general availability for Platform SSO and the passkeys that come with that. We have it at the moment deployed to a test fleet, but you know, we are waiting for general availability, which has been announced for August. Last time I looked on the roadmap, so we'll see where that goes. And lastly, we are also working a bit on an improved life cycle, and more on that later. So as I alluded to, we open about 8 stores a week. But before we do that, There's actually quite a lot of work that goes into opening a retail location, and thank God I'm not involved in that. There are specialized teams who do only that, but I can tell you a bit about it. In terms of IT at least. So when we look at an IT stack for a store, there's no IT present in any of our stores. That would just not be viable. We have 1,400 plus locations, so that would create a humongous IT team, so that's just not doable. In the past, we used to have Windows cash registers and Citrix back office computers. And again, this is more looking back how things were before we started the journey on Apple. Nowadays, we run, instead of the Windows cash registers, we run a whole Apple fleet in the stores. Like we saw on the previous video as well, in the past, we started out by using the iPod Touches. Unfortunately, there were some downsides as well, apart from them being super cute and super handy. The battery life was not particularly great on those. The screen resolution, also not particularly great, but the most important thing, they were end of life. So we had to do something else. So nowadays, we use the iPhone SE as our primary device for in-store actions. So they do stock counting, they can help customers with tap to pay. If there's a line, they will be able to accommodate customers in that sense. Also, that has a teeny tiny downside because the price of the things are again a little bit more up from the iPod Touch, but it works pretty good for us in that sense. Right. So that's the iPhone SE. Great, amazing store device. What do we also have in our stores? We have a mobile back office. And with mobile back office, meaning it's not tied to a desk in general, despite us having actual computers in there. We like our personnel, especially store managers, to be mobile, to go wherever they need to, talk with people, having that device at hand if needed to do, especially spend more time on the store floor, and of course be paperless if need be. And we do that with an iPad Air 13-inch M2. We used to have iPad Pros, but now we are a little bit more modernized in that sense. And they do an amazing job in terms of performance. When you see what people do with that in terms of office tasks, they're able to do whatever it is that they need to do, and they barely complain about either battery life or performance. It just is amazing. Something else, it's not really IT, but I wanted to put it in there because we launched a press statement just this morning. So this is one of the slides that I had to quickly put in there, is that we don't necessarily only sell cosmetic products, but we also operate things like Mind Oasis. So if you are in a busy situation, you want to calm down, relax. Imagine me standing here on the stage, and then afterwards I could go into a Mind Oasis and relax for a bit, but unfortunately we don't have one here because the press release this morning was about that we are going to open our first Mind Oasis here in the UK on Oxford Street. That will be live in October. Cheeky plug for that. The Mind Oasis themselves, again, also standardized on the 13-inch iPad Air. The cash registers themselves, again, in the past they used to be Windows 7 devices, which are, old, and that was the reason also behind the change to Apple, because the hardware was end of life and it was very costly to run these things. So the next gen solution that we use now again is an iPad Pro and an iPad Air combination, or an iPad Pro and an iPad Mini, and we are in the transition away from the iPad Mini as a customer display towards the more bigger 13-inch iPad Air. So we will see those roll out over the next year or so. All right, so what comes about to opening a store? Well, a lot of logistics, actually, so much logistics that I was like, oh, that's interesting, I didn't thought about it. And we don't do that in-house. We do that with a couple of partners of ours, and I'd like to show you how we do that because they made a video about that. We have a video.
Building a ritual store is a complex operation. Behind the scenes, IT plays a crucial role. What does that process look like? Let us take you through it. It all starts at the Amsterdam office, where we place bulk orders for various equipment, like routers, monitors, receipt printers, Apple devices, cables from multiple suppliers. The ordered items are being delivered to FEM Systems warehouse in the Netherlands. There, the hardware is stored. When an order from the store IT comes in, the equipment is picked for that store. In the warehouse, the FEM Systems employee prepares the hardware for new stores. The network is staged, and all the necessary equipment is carefully packed. The first box contains the network, access points, and the people counter. The second box holds the iPads, cash drawers, receipt printers, back office equipment, and the rest of the hardware. These boxes travel alongside the furniture in our truck. We combine orders as much as possible to save on our carbon footprint and costs. At the store, the general contractor, GC, installs the patch cabinet and mounts the access points and people counter. The local internet service provider sets up the first router, even as the construction team continues to work on the shop. After the handover of the store keys, retail begins stocking the store, and our CGI engineers visit twice for IT-related tasks. During the first visit, a GTT technician installs the second modem and, together with the CGI engineer, connects it to the network. On the second visit, the cash register and back office equipment are installed. Together with the store manager, we test everything to ensure it works perfectly. Finally, back at the office, all hardware items are allocated to the appropriate store in our systems to ensure costs are allocated to the correct entity. This is how IT ensures every new ritual store is perfectly prepared and operational, all to deliver an optimal shopping experience.
And that's how we do it. Well, we don't do it. There's a lot of different firms involved, and basically our role is just to coordinate and make sure that everything happens in good order, in good time, and that everything is harmonious and opens on time. And we're pretty good at that by now. So I think most of our stores, they open on time, which is good to hear. This is what it looks like, by the way. I asked one of our warehouse guys, hey, show me what the IT stuff looks like. It's actually pretty condensed. It's just one pallet with all the items that a store needs to open, from iPads to printers and what have you. So not a very big footprint, but yeah, pretty cool to show. I did mention the back office computer just briefly, because they don't while they do have an iPad to perform most of their tasks, we did find that stores do like a general computer. At the moment, they still have a Mac Mini, but we are in the process of refreshing those whenever the life cycle of that device comes up, and we are gonna refresh them into a brand new iMac, and that gives just a better experience all around for the store manager to do their work. The new iMacs are ridiculously fast, they're very efficient at what they do, and they allow the store manager to communicate effectively with other stores in their region and with area and local retail teams. So that's one of the cool projects that we work on at the moment. Now, let's have a look at one of the more techy things, because I am aware this was pretty much not that much technical, so now we're gonna dive in and make things a bit more technical. So how do we do it? Well, we have pretty standard equipment in terms of we don't necessarily do too much in preparation for it. So when we order an iPad, it's just an iPad. It doesn't have a predefined thing. We don't do things with pre-registration, because that's done all on device itself. So during one of the movies, they mentioned the second IT visit. Well, this is what happens during the second IT visit. We use Jamf Setup for this, where they actually go in and select the role for each iOS device. So whether that be an iPad or an iPhone, something along those lines. So just depending on what that device needs to do, they select the appropriate role for that. How does that work? Well, it's just basically an app that we get out of the App Store. Our friends at Jamf, they built the app, and they also provided some app config for it. And this is the app config where we define the roles, which are basically gonna be written back to Jamf's inventory record as an extension attribute. And again, this is for both the iPads and for the iPhones. So once the person selects the role, it's being written away as an extension attribute, like I mentioned, and then depending on whatever role that is, it falls into one or numerous smart groups and then gets whatever applications they need to get based on that role. it's really a very smooth thing. And I mentioned smart groups because we got quite a lot of them, so it's all depending on the role that they select. So that's Jamf Setup, and it plays pretty much a very integral part in our efficiency, because I, as an admin, don't need to go into each and every device and decide what it needs to do. It's just all being done in store. And if they make a mistake, it's not a problem. They can just reopen Jamf Setup and select the right role. In worst case, they can erase all contents and settings and start over. So there's very, very little incidents that come our way in terms of Jamf. I want to close off the last chapter, and that is something really cool that I personally like and I've implemented at Rituals. I like to play with the Power Automate platform, or the Flow platform. That's what it used to be called, but now it's being called the Power Automate platform. So what does Power Automate do? Well, it does a lot of things, and it depends on what we tell it to do. But we use it in about 3 or 4 different workflows that I can share with you. We use it in more workflows, but unfortunately I can't talk about that today. One of the workflows that helps me a lot is assigning a device to a specific pre-stage enrollment. So we have various different devices. So we got iPads, and we have iMacs, and we have iPhones, and depending on what type of device it is, I have a different pre-stage for that in the Jamf Pro setup. Now, I don't want to do this by hand, and unfortunately in the Jamf Pro platform I can't really tell it like, well, if it's an iPhone it needs to go there. What Jamf has done in version 993 of Jamf Pro, so it's quite a while back, they introduced the concept of webhooks. For those of you not familiar, what is a webhook? It's basically when something happens, it does something. That's the very simplistic thing. So in this workflow where I let Power Automate action, what happens is we purchase a device either from Apple or from a reseller or wherever we purchase that device from. That device then is being added by the reseller to our Apple Business Manager instance, which adds it to our MDM. In our case, that's Jamf Pro. As soon as that's being added to our Jamf Pro instance, Jamf will fire off a webhook to the Power Automate platform and say, hello, I have something for you. And it will give Power Automate some information of what just happened. So in this case, the device was added to DEP, and it then tells Power Automate the serial number, it tells it the model, and it tells it 2 or 3 more other attributes about that particular device. That information, because we have that information, we can then start to parse that out, and we can use those things as variables. And again, those variables we can then later on use in the API called back to Jamf, where we tell it what to do with it. So in this scenario, we basically get the information for Jamf, we make it into a variable, then we generate a bearer token, because we need a bearer token for authentication in Jamf's API. And then we are gonna fire off an API call to Jamf, and it looks somewhat like this, where we basically tell Jamf, hi Jamf, I have this serial number, and go ahead and assign this to the pre-stage with an ID. Now, for obvious reason, I blanked out the IDs in here, but you get the picture. This works great, absolutely great, until very recently, like half a year ago or something, where Jamf decided on a concept called version locking. Anybody here familiar with what version locking is? I don't see any hands, so I'm going to tell you what it is. It's very annoying, that's what it is. Basically, what happens in the Jamf Pro system, if you have a pre-stage enrollment and you click on edit and save, doesn't matter what you do at this point, Jamf increments the version of that particular pre-stage. It does that because in the past there was some issues with specifically these workflows that I'm talking about now, where Jamf at some point did not know what change was made or did not know what to communicate to Apple. So in order to do that, they implemented versioning. So every time we make a change, whether that be through the interface or the API, doesn't matter, it increments the version of said pre-stage enrollment. So when we do the push of this particular workflow, So when we tell Jamf, hi, I have this serial number that's just been added to our business manager. It's an iMac and it needs to be assigned to the iMac pre-stage. And it has this serial number, go ahead and do that. We also need to tell Jamf, hey, you need to add this and this is your latest version. So prior to actually making this API, we need to do a get command and actually ask Jamf, hey, what version are you on? And then you're going to get back the version. And that's the version that you need to communicate in this particular workflow. It took quite a while to find it out because documentation was not very widely available. That's why I like to talk about it. So people who would like to implement these sorts of workflows know about it. Further down, what we do is we then post a message to one of our Slack channels or Teams channels in this case, saying, hey, we just added a device to this pre-stage just so we know what comes in and what not. And that's pretty much that workflow. It's a pretty cool workflow now, and we use the Power Platform for that. Another thing that we use the Power Platform for is not necessarily webhook based, but this is user input based, is when we are having an end-of-life device. We allow certain people in the organization to fill out a form and provide us some details with that, because not everybody can disown a device, and I'm not going to go into the Apple platform and disown everything by hand. Because if I'm here in Brighton, nobody would do that. So that's not very handy. So we made a workflow for that. So what happens is somebody files the information into a form with the serial number of that device and some more information that's specific to us. We then get the approval of that particular request. And then we use the Jamf Pro API to tell Apple Business Manager to release that device. Because Apple Business Manager has API endpoints, but the thing is we can't use them as our individual device. I can't just go and talk to ABM Direct and say, or School Manager, by the way, this is agnostic for those platforms, but I can't talk to the Apple platform and saying, well, go ahead and release this device or something. That certain call has to be done through an MDM. So in this case, what we do is we tell basically Jamf Pro to tell the Apple platform to release said device after the approval is done. Again, a pretty nifty workflow that we use quite on a regular basis just to make our lives relatively easy. This is the second part of that workflow indeed, where we say, okay, well, we have this serial number. It needs to be disowned from Apple Business Manager. And for good measure, we will delete the device from Jamf as well. There's no point in deleting it from Business Manager and then not doing it in Jamf, because that will just eat up a license and that's not very useful. It's very useful for Jamf because we pay for it, but not very useful for us. Lastly, one of the workflows that I can share with you is a reporting workflow. So every month we like to know how many devices we've deployed at a set month. This is just an example report of what we've done in which country we deployed what. And again, we use the Power Platform for that. It's an automated thing that runs basically once every X, and then we get the information for Jamf Pro, and then we're using the Power Platform to actually parse the information that we need, because there's a lot of information using the Jamf Pro API available, but it's so much information that you have to actually use a system to parse this. Now, you could do this on any Mac or any Linux machine, or even a Windows machine for that matter, and then do it on a machine. But since we have a Power Platform available, that's why we chose to do that in the Power Platform. Lastly, if any of you wants to start working with these things, this is what a webhook URL looks like. And I would like to take this opportunity to guard you for hours and hours of why does this not work. And the why is very simple. When you get a webhook URL, the way how to set this up is you go into Power Automate and you say, well, I want to do something with webhooks, and it's going to give you a URL. The top part is the URL that you get from Power Automate. Now, a normal person would say, okay, well, all we do is we just put that in our Jamf Pro, click Save, and hope for the best, right? Wrong. Because the way how Azure or Power Platform provides the URL, we need to adjust it because it gives us the %2f instead of a /, and Jamf Pro doesn't know how to do that. So we need to make sure to look at your URL and then modify the %2fs with a /. Otherwise, it just simply doesn't work. And it's very frustrating if you work with sites like webhook.sites, which is an amazing tester, and you can see the data actually coming in. And then you say, oh, great, it works. You put it into your Jamf test instance, which I hope everybody has, and it doesn't work. Nothing happens. And yeah, it took a little bit of time to figure out why, and this is why. So it's just something for those of you who want to give it a go, I got you. And that basically concludes my talk. So the conclusion for this is Apple's great. It allows us to scale really rapidly without intervention of IT, because we have a relatively small IT team, and it doesn't require us to be hands-on. We are very hands-off. Everything's being done on device by the person, either the store manager or the installation partner who does the installation. And yeah, making our lives as IT very good, but also those of the end user. If for whatever reason they need a new device, they just get a device in box. They were able to set it up themselves really quickly and then be on their way. There's no need to wait for an engineer. Most of the times, there's no need for endless installation things, and that's pretty much it. That was it, and I have time for some questions if need be. Go ahead.
Great to see Setup Reset being used in the wild. Is there a reason why you didn't explore doing like platform single sign-on? Do the end users not have identity in the stores?
They have identities in the store, but they haven't. I mean, in this case, the cash registers and stuff, we don't have, there's no need to do a sign-on in this sense, because all the sign-inning that they do is they do it in our POS app. So it doesn't matter who sets up the device. They do sign in actually with a generic store account during enrollment, but not in Setup or Reset. That just, there's no need for us.
And are you exploring mobile assist to help with like support, like for PIN codes and stuff like that?
Yes, we have looked at it. Not had time yet to implement it, but mobile assist is, I think, probably the way forward. But until that such time, Setup and Reset do an amazing job for us. But good question. Go ahead.
So Power Automate, I only used it for a very small task, but that was related to our SharePoint / creating users in Microsoft. What I think is amazing here is you have used it to make Jamf, if that makes sense. So am I right in thinking that you can use Power Automate to accommodate anything else that not only Jamf, maybe even a third party or a third platform doesn't do, and then you can just automate it in there?
To a certain extent. I mean, basically, if there's an API endpoint or if you have some input, it can do stuff for you. So you can make it parse data and then reformat it in a different way. Another workflow that's not shown, I didn't want to show it here because it's quite a complex one, is it does stuff with inventory preload as well. So it adds stuff to a CSV, and that was then being written away to Jamf Pro, for instance. But I think something I really like about the Power Platform is that it's so versatile. You can do if you have data, you can make it do whatever you want. It also can become very complex at times, but again, that's just what you make of it.
Yeah. Are you doing any monitoring for your store infrastructure? So I take it you're using Meraki's. So did you have any systems to actually see that the Meraki's are working or your Wi-Fi hotspots working?
Yeah, we do. Our networking is done through a third-party vendor. We use Meraki access point, as you pointed out. We have Meraki all over the shop, basically. And they monitor internet connectivity. They monitor if something goes down, and then they alert us if need be. But those vendors also have the ability to dispatch technicians from one of our partners to investigate. So most of the times we will be involved very later on, or we will be involved as the need be, but not, oh, it's this down, you need to know about this. No, it's like, great, handle it. And that's really the power, again, also for us to grow as quickly as we can, because if you would do this in-house, that would require a huge team, but by using partners that are specialized in certain tasks. So for network, we use a partner. For on-site installations, like was mentioned in the video, we use a different partner. Logistics, we have a partner for that. So utilizing those specialized partners, we can get all of their expertise and all of their know-how, and yeah, make us grow as quickly as possible and easy for us to scale up or down without too much consideration. And yeah, excellent question.
Sorry, second question. So I take it that you use Jamf to know what phone you use or what iPad you use in what store. What do you do for other devices like printers, BOS, or other things? Where do you keep that inventory list?
We have a CMDB for that. That CMDB resides in ServiceNow for us. It's not always up to date, but like with any CMDB, something goes in and then we can pull up a store and we can tell you that serial number for that printer is there. But again, also for us here, it's standardization, right? It doesn't matter which store I go in, the numbers would fluctuate, but the content is exactly the same. They have the same model of printer, they have the same model of back office device, same model of access points. Sure, a flagship store has maybe 100 phones, while the corner shop here in Brighton maybe has 5 phones. You know, that differs, but in terms of standardization, it's all standard. And that's again also something that really helps us scale, is just the standardization of that sort of things. But yeah, excellent question. Good. Well, if you have any more questions, come and see me, and otherwise, I wish you a lovely rest of the conference and see you tonight at the beer thingy from Workbrew.
Thank you so much.